You are looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Woo, 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 woo. Not so fast.
Ed, Urban Meyer in Jacksonville has been an interesting topic that recently has been dominating the headlines in the news. And for those of you that missed it, he, how do I put this delicately? He was, let's just say he was getting himself into trouble at a bar. That's all we're saying. No, it wasn't a fight, but it was, we'll just say he was dancing with a lady at the bar. That's all I'm going to say. And, if you missed that, A, I don't know how you missed it, and B, now you know. So when Urban Meyer was hired, I wasn't a big fan. A lot of people were. A lot of people were like, wow, Urban Meyer, he's got a lot of great football knowledge. And that's true. But how that transfers to the NFL from college it's a huge jump. It's a huge difference. And for one, I just wasn't seeing it a whole lot. And, I think that I never would have seen this happening. I just want to put that out there. So before we get into like my thoughts now on Urban Meyer, I want to replay, and maybe not a lot of you saw this because this was, or heard this, because this was when, this was back in January when I was still at home, and I think most people were as well. But here's what I had to say back in January when Urban Meyer was hired for the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching job. Oh, okay. Why is it not? Oh, I don't have the. Oh, nice. Way to go, me. I didn't have the button on. Let's try that again. Take two. Sorry about that. Here we go. This is where my initial thoughts on Urban Meyer being hired as a Jacksonville head coach back on January 24th, 2021.
Anyway, one of the first jobs, or the first head coach vacancies that was filled this off season, even though we're still kind of in the postseason, was the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they hired Urban Meyer, which was awfully surprising to me because, like, if you've followed Urban Meyer at all, and you know anything about him, you know that he retired from Ohio State, right? And his reasoning for retiring from Ohio State was because of health issues and the stress that it brought upon him was just too much. And he wanted to take a step back and spend some time with his family, right? And even before he even was talking about being a head coach in the NFL level, I just found it kind of weird how he wanted to take a step away from football and spend more time with his family. And then I would see him on these pregame shows all the time. I was like, what are you even talking about? Like, how does that make any sense? So, I don't know. I feel like something odd was going on at Ohio State, and he had to make something up so that it looked real and looked good. So, I don't know what was really going on there. And, excuse me, my nose is really itchy for some reason. So, yeah, I don't know that it makes too much sense to retire from college football because of the stress and the health issues that he had, and then step up to the NFL level. Like, does he not think that the NFL level is going to be stressful? And I put a tweet out about this and saying basically the same thing. And somebody replied to me and said, well, think about it this way. In college, you are dealing with a bunch of young kids, right? Young punk kids, and, they've got ego issues and attitude issues and all that good stuff. And you have to worry about eligibility and recruiting and this, that, and the other thing. And sure, that makes a lot of sense to me that the college level, I'm not saying the college level is easy to be coaching at, especially one of those, the blue blood schools at Ohio State for football. I'm not saying that's easy, but if that was too tough on you, why go to the NFL? Like, the logic doesn't connect for me. And then somebody, that same person said, in the NFL, you're dealing with men, you're grown men, and they're professionals, and it's not so much you're trying to manage kids at that level. And that was an interesting point that they brought up, but I I don't know if I totally agree with it, because look at the Steelers. Look at Juju Smith-Schuster. You're meaning to tell me he's a mature, grown man dancing on other teams' logos, doing TikToks before the game? And I'm not saying that Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy that is the epitome of a few guys on every team, but like, I mean, look at some quarterbacks. They are some, not even quarterbacks, but receiver, anybody, players. If they don't get enough, some of them, if they don't get enough playing time, they start whining, complaining, and they want out, right? Just for whatever reason, there's always something going on, it seems like, for some teams. And it would be one thing if Urban Meyer was taking over for a Bill Belichick, right? And he kind of had some key pieces already there, and all I had to do was plug in a few other pieces, right? That would be something where I would look at that and say, all right, that makes a little bit more sense to me. But for the Jacksonville Jaguars, for him to go there, like, they don't have a quarterback, they have a young running back, they have a couple, some young receivers, right? And I'm not saying they're not talented. They are talented, but they're young, right? So they still have time to develop. They don't have much of a defense, right? Like, this team is, in a sense, like, you're getting the bottom of the barrel here, and you've got to kind of build up a successful team. And, like, again, I'm not saying that these guys, that the young guys that they have, I'm not saying they're not talented. They are, but they're just young. So they still need to develop their game a little bit, but, like, they still need a quarterback. They still need a defense. They still need a lot of pieces. And for a new coach who retired from the college level because of stress issues and health issues, I don't know if he can handle it. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. And I feel like after 2 years of not being successful, and 2 years of not being, good, if you will, after 2 years out, he's going to be like, oh man, it's too stressful, I'm out, my heart, oh my God, So, like, I just don't know if this was a hire for the Jaguars that's going to end up making sense, in 3 or 4 years, right? This isn't something that I think is going to, I don't know. And I'm not saying that this guy's not a good coach, right? I just don't know if he has that drive anymore, right? To be a really good coach. And, like, sure, 10 years ago at Ohio State, and even 5 years ago or whatever at Ohio State, he was great. He was one of the best head coaches in the country. But, like, the college, and here's another thing that I don't know about. The college level, being a college coach and being successful doesn't mean you're going to be able to come over to the NFL and have that same success. So, and I just feel like more times than not, coaches that were really successful in the college game, they come over to the NFL, and I feel like more times than not, those guys just don't have, like, they are not able to be as successful in the NFL. And there's many reasons for that, I would imagine, but I feel like probably the most thing, the number one reason for that is because, think about it this way: you do something for so long, you do one thing one way for so long, you're just used to doing it that way, and then you go into a different system and you try to do things the way you are so used to doing them, it just isn't going to work. And I feel like that is probably the number one cause of all these guys that come across from college to the NFL for head coaches, and they just aren't that successful. And that same principle is there for college football players as well. Like, all those Ohio State quarterbacks that were so great at Ohio State, Braxton Miller, Cardale Jones, J.T. Barrett, Dwayne Haskins, like, they were so great in college, and I guess that they were just, like, trained to do, play at the college level, right? And they were so good at that, and they come across the NFL, and their game just didn't transfer all that well. It's that same principle for coaches, and I just don't know that Urban Meyer is going to be one of those guys that you look back at and say, oh man, how did no other NFL team hire him before? Like, I just feel like there's a reason behind that. And, I feel like the Jaguars thought, hey, you know what? This guy knows football. Let's hire him. Whatever, right? Doesn't matter if he's going to be good at the NFL or not. Doesn't matter that he has absolutely zero NFL coaching, experience. At least I don't think he does. He's been at Ohio State for as long as I can remember. So, I'm not a huge fan of this hire. All right, that's if you couldn't get that from me, I'm not a huge fan of it. Will this team be successful or not successful under Urban Meyer? I think if they are going to be successful, it's going to take a while, so they have to be patient. But I more likely than not, I don't think they're going to be successful.
So you kind of get the picture there of what I'm saying. And, you know, at the time of the video, Jacksonville was not as much of a, like, you know, they're a whole younger team right now than they were when he was, you know, hired. Like this was when the postseason was still going on. So, you know, they didn't have Trevor Lawrence yet. They didn't, you know, trade a lot of guys away. And, you know, so, you know, there's young guys all over the NFL. And, you know, even some of the older guys are not as, you know, not as mature. So, you know, and that's just part of it, right? NFL is in a lot more than just that facet, is a whole different game than college. You don't want to look back at Urban Meyer, and you know, you don't want to look back at that hire and say, you know, oh my God, what were we thinking, right? And I compare that to Adam Gase with the Jets, and you look back at that and you're like, what idiot hired Adam Gase as their head coach for the Jets? And right now I'm looking back at Jacksonville and I'm asking the same thing with Urban Meyer. So, you know, Urban Meyer already getting himself in trouble, as I said, and we're not even halfway into the season yet. Word on the street is that the players do not respect Urban Meyer. You know, he had, I think, after the whole incident over the last weekend, he went through and had meetings with players, like, you know, by position groups. So, like, he met with all the quarterbacks at once, all the running backs at once, so on and so forth. You know, the USC job is open, and there has been some rumors and murmurs that maybe Urban Meyer has already mentally checked out at Jacksonville and he wants to go take the USC job. And two things to that. A, let's not forget why he stepped down from Ohio State, health issues and all that. And if I'm USC, I don't really know that I want Urban Meyer. Well, I don't care what his numbers are at Ohio State and all of the success he's had, you know, at Florida as well. Current Urban Meyer, I don't know if I want Urban Meyer on my team, whether it's a high school team, FCS college team, FBS college team, NFL team. I don't know that I want Urban Meyer as my head coach right now, with everything going on. I'd be surprised if Urban Meyer even makes it. Like, and I said, you know, in that, you know, little flashback clip, I said something about, like, you know, 3 or 4 years or whatever. Like, I don't know that he makes it 3 or 4 years. Now I'm saying I don't even know if he's gonna make it to the end of this season. I don't even think. I mean, we're going into week 5, right? And it's already like, oh my goodness, we're going to have 12 more weeks of this, or 13 more weeks of this, actually. And like, I don't know. I think the ice is really thin. Like, you can see through the ice at this point. It's really thin in Jacksonville, and not because it's hot, not because of the climate down there, but Urban Meyer is on really, really thin ice right now in Jacksonville. And with the way things are going, I'd be super shocked if he even makes it to the end of the season in Jacksonville. And, you know, as I said, like, if Urban Meyer was going to have success with Jacksonville, I feel like it would have already happened by now. They're off to an 0-4 start, and you look at that division, as I kind of alluded to earlier in the show. That division is terrible. I mean, I think the Colts and Titans are leading the division, and, like, they're really bad. Like, I think they're only 1-3. Let me double check here on the standings, but because I think Tennessee only won 1 game. Colts just won their first game this weekend. I'm sorry, Titans are 2-2, leading the division, and the Texans and Colts are tied for second at 1-3. So, and the Titans haven't even looked good at all. Like, they've looked really bad, to put it lightly. And if Jacksonville was going to be, like, good under Urban Meyer, I feel like as I said, I feel like they probably would have done it by now, because they have enough talented pieces to have at least won one of these 4 games, right? I mean, they played the Houston Texans and they lost to them. I projected Houston to be the worst team in the league this year, and like if it weren't for Jacksonville, they probably would be. And for them to not even be able to beat Houston, and I get it, it was week 1, it was new for everybody. You know, I think if they play Houston, and that was when Houston had Tyrod Taylor, I get that. I think maybe they play Houston now, right? I think the next time they play Houston, they probably win that game. I think it would be a home game for Jacksonville. Yeah, because they played week 1 at Houston. You know, and last week, Jacksonville in the entire, and as I said, this was kind of confusing the way it was worded last week, but for the entire time of the game last week against Cincinnati, they either had the lead or were tied with Cincinnati for the entirety of last week, and they still lost because Cincinnati won the game as time expired. So, like, that just kind of puts in perspective that, like, even when they're like winning or tied for the whole game, they still find a way to mess it up. So, like, the big question here is, when is Jacksonville going to figure it out? Are they going to? And are they going to be able to figure things out with Urban Meyer as the captain of the ship? Personally, I mean, as you've heard from the little flashback video, I didn't think it was a good hire from the get-go. And now it's really coming out like, oh, wow, this was not a good hire really at all. And you know, as I said, it felt like a really random hire at the time. Like I said, it felt like, oh, he knows football, so let's hire him, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like there was plenty of other good guys out there that could have gotten the job. The one that comes to mind, and probably everybody is shouting at the screen, or will be when it goes up on YouTube later, is Eric Bieniemy, right? Like, why doesn't that guy have a head coaching job just yet? And there's plenty of other guys out there as well. Like, you know, even Jason Garrett, I don't think would have been as bad as Urban Meyer. You know, so Matt Patricia probably wouldn't even been as bad as Urban Meyer has. So, like, there's plenty of other guys out there they could have hired, and instead they went with the guy who retired because of health issues and from college. Like, I don't know, the whole health issues thing just really seems a little shady to me. So, you know, they go and hire that guy, and you know, I don't know, it's just, as I said before, the Jaguars just seem to always figure out how to mess things up. And, you know, it's kind of that, like, you know, leave it to Beaver to mess things up. That's kind of how it is in Jacksonville. And as I said, if they have a good coach, they might have a chance at giving Tennessee a run for their money for first place in the AFC South.
Shut up and sit down.